Hey guys, Pretzelman here, and good morning, happy Sunday. Thank you for 3 subs. I made a video on how I actually record my videos. Very short, it's like 2 minutes. Kind of weird, but if you want to watch it, just upload it, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, this morning's video, because I like to do 2 each day, is my minimum. Basically, for those who don't know, I like to do 2 lists a day. This is coming from the notebook that has less lists. I decided I'm just gonna kind of finish off these lists and then go back to the notebook with more lists. Anyway, this morning's list is my top 10 favorite comedies. I love comedies. I love anything with humorous dialogue and quips and whatever. I love that stuff. Uh, 10 and 9 don't necessarily count as comedies, but I still count them as comedies because I think they're extremely funny. And number 10 is Ocean's 13. Now, I have seen Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. I watched them on Netflix. 12 was alright. 13 was pretty good, but 11 was easily the best one, in my opinion. I really think that I just love all the characters in this trilogy, and I think they're all super, super funny. And that's pretty much it. At number 9 is Ocean's 11. This film is it's just really funny. Like, I love all the characters and just the entire plot of this film. I think it is so funny, especially that twist at the end with the them actually being the SWAT people. Like, that just kills me every time. At number 8 is Elf. So this is another one of my favorite Christmas movies, and just mainly because I think it is so funny. Because for one thing, Will Ferrell's hilarious. I love Will Ferrell. This movie has a ridiculous plot, and it's very, very straightforward, which is what you honestly really need in a comedy, is a straightforward plot. Okay, guys, sorry for that pause, but I had to momentarily fix a major error in my list, which basically means I had to change the whole thing. So actually, number 10 is Ocean's 11, and we're actually number 9, which is Elf. So Elf is another one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's really funny, as Will Ferrell, and it's a really simple plot, and it's just hilarious. It has a lot of really funny snowball scenes, and it plays on the humor a lot that, like, Buddy's that's the Will Ferrell's good, and Buddy's like actually human as an elf and whatnot, and I think that humor just really pays off really, really well. And all the characters are pretty pleasant in this film. It's just a very fun film to watch. And number 8 is Overboard. Now, this is a film that I just enjoyed every time I see it, honestly, because it's about how there's this mean, rich white lady who is a complete douchebag, basically, and there's this carpenter guy that comes to fix something. She's not happy with it, and eventually she gets overboard. And the carpenter's like, "That's what you deserve." And then she gets amnesia from it, and so he's like, "Oh, maybe I can get her to be my husband and do stuff for me as revenge." So they eventually do that, and a huge plus for the setting is the way the relationships work between the kids and the dad. because they eventually fall in love. It's quite a sweet love story, actually, which is not something I say about a movie very often, but um, I like that aspect of it, and it's just a very good film. At number 7 is another one of my favorite Christmas movies is Home Alone, and I promise it's the last Christmas movie on this list, but Home Alone is a really simple plot um, about this kid that gets stuck at home. It's like basically a classic plot. Macaulay Culkin is excellent child prodigy actor, also featuring a great John Williams score, which I honestly think is a tad underrated. Um, and the whole film has really, especially in the third act when the robbers are trying to get into the house. My God, I ooh, that always makes me laugh so much. Um, and and also the character relationships are also quite good in this movie. I feel like they're very well established. At number 6, and this is where it got really hard to rank these, but at number 6 is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And this would have been higher, but I just have so many sitcoms like in this list that I really, really, really like. And basically, when you put Steve Martin and John Candy into the same film together, you have no idea the humorous potential that generates. This movie is so funny and has constant comedic scenes that always make me laugh like I'm rolling around on the floor during every second of this movie. It is unbelievable the humorous amounts that are generated when you put these two together side by side in the same film because they have such great chemistry and they bounce off each other so well. And it also has a really sweet story about Steve Martin's character wanting to get home to his family for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and there's just a lot of super funny jokes played off in this film. At number 5 is Best in Show. Now, for those who don't know this film, it is a comedy about a dog show. And right there, you've got a great premise for a show, for a movie, sorry. But the thing that is the best about this is just the amount of characterization each character has. Like each person is given so much personality, so much hilarious personality, and their dogs too. And even though there's a lot of really funny characters in this, my favorite character will always be the guy with the bloodhound. And I absolutely love this scene where he says, pine nut, macadamia nut, all natural white pistachio nut, and all types of different kinds of nuts. Like, that gets me every single time I see that. And I just overall just love this movie because I think it is very, very funny, and and the plot is like probably the simplest of any movie on this list because it's just about a dog show and people preparing for a dog show. That's it. But the comedic potential of this just knows no bounds, and I always find this movie to be so funny. And number 4 is Spaceballs. Now, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I have an even more personal love of this movie than some people might. And by the way, when we're talking about Mel Brooks here, honorable mention on this list goes to Blazing Saddles, because that movie is also funny as crap. Spaceballs is, as I've said, a Star Wars spoof, and I really think that this was the perfect type of comedy they could have done, like back in the 80s when this was made. And there are just so many different Star Wars jokes and just absolutely ridiculous jokes. Like, for example, when the heroes jam the Spaceballs communications, then they literally shoot a jar of jam into it, and it jams the communications. And just like jokes like that are really what make this movie just so funny, along with the effects are incredibly goofy. And just so is the plot. The plot is absolutely nonsensical, and I love it. Though, I will say, the one thing I've never liked about this film, even though it's meant to be a joke, just whenever I have to look away whenever Pizza the Hut shows up on my screen, because he genuinely makes me feel like I'm going to barf. He is that disgusting, which I also actually do love. Also, John Candy is also in this film. He has made several appearances in this list so far. Because he actually is in Home Alone as well. Because that's 3 movies that he's in on this list. But anyway, he plays Barf very, very well, and just everything about this movie is so funny and random. Now, at number 3 is Mrs. Doubtfire. Now, I love Robin Williams, but when I think of peak Robin Williams performances and peak Robin Williams comedy, I always think of this movie every time. I think this movie is just so funny. Like, honestly, it's just so funny. It has so many jokes, and the plot is incredibly creative, because it's about how this it's about how this dad, his mom and dad, they get divorced, and his dad really wants to see his kids more. So he disguises as this nanny named Mrs. Doubtfire. And it just ensues. Like, there's so many funny skits about him, especially one with this tax auditor scene or something like that, where he's constantly having to change outfits back and forth to simulate as like both people being present in the apartment at once. And believe me, that is just funny as absolute get out. And just honestly, when I think of peak Robin Williams, I really think of this movie and no other movie. At number 2 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, for one, they do so many creative concepts with this movie. So, for one, it's about this guy named Ferris Bueller. So there's just like a line from the film, this droning teacher is calling his attendance or whatever. Mueller. I can't stop saying that. Bueller. But anyway, I digress. It's basically about this guy named Ferris Bueller. He's in high school. He just takes a day off from school and steals his friend's dad's really expensive car and absolutely ruins it over the course of the movie, or ruins it, or the friend that goes along with him ruins it like for the movie because he like the genius of this movie is that he pretends to be sick and then he like goes and pick up his girlfriend or whatever. And there's this really funny scene where like he's posing as like her dad, and then the principal that takes her out there and they just start making out. And it's super duper funny, just because of the way the principal looks. And the principal is probably my favorite character in this entire movie, because well, I'll get to that later, but the Ferris Bueller is basically like, how many things can I do in one school day in time to get back home and still look sick? So he gets into town, and then he lends the car to these two guys. And keep in mind, he's with his friend whose dad owns a really expensive car and would get mad if like a leaf touched it. So he lends it to these two really wild guys that they're like parkers or whatever, like valet parking guys, and they drive the car off. And they do a lot of really funny things, but absolutely my favorite scene in this film is when these two guys drive up over the hill and you hear this Star Wars theme play. And when I watched that, I felt like my eyes were going to go back in my head. I was laughing so hard at that. I thought that was so funny. There's also just so many other funny things in this film. Like, for example, just the way that he constantly has to evade the principal and whatever. And like the stuff he does in town and whatnot. Because he gets in bed just in time to seem sick or whatever. And what eventually ends up happening is his sister leaves the house or whatever, and the principal, in this what I was talking about earlier, is really really suspicious because he like hates Ferris Bueller and just wants to fail him at any cost. So he's really really suspicious about like him and like what he's doing. So he sneaks into their house, and the sister sees him there and just kind of like and just like scares him off. And every time he tries to re-enter the house, just he's met with this really really mean dog that always chases him off, and it's the funniest thing ever. It's literally such a funny scene. And because the way it works is like the sister wanders around, and then I don't remember the exact plot, but like something happens to where she ends up in this police station with this really shady like gangster dude, and they start like making out or whatever, and it's kind of funny. And then like at the very end, after the credits are done, it's just this shot of like Ferris Bueller in a robe, just looking directly at the camera, just completely shattering the fourth wall, and just like, what are you still doing here? The movie's over. And like that was another part that killed me too. This movie has so many funny characters and character stereotypes, and it is honestly just one of the funniest movies I have ever seen in my life. And of course, at number one, and I mentioned this in part one of my favorite movies list, which you should check out, that my favorite comedy and my 16th favorite film, which we know if you saw the video, is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Now, for one, this just screams classic comedy, but also this is possibly the most nonsensical movie in existence, and I absolutely love it. So basically, the plot is that the first part of the film, King Arthur is searching around for Knights of the Round Table, and there's this really, really funny opening credits scene with this really dramatic music, and it always features all this thing about mooses and like this Swedish subtitles that shouldn't be there, and there's all these things in the credits about moose, and and then it's always like the directors have been sacked type thing, and then at great expense it changes to credits with a load of stuff about llamas. And then the movie starts, and it's like 932 AD, and the music is like bum, 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 and it's just like way too dramatic of music to be in this type of movie. And every single Knight of the Round Table that's introduced is absolutely ridiculous, such as Sir Bedivere, um, or Sir Robin, or Sir Lancelot, or Sir Galahad, that's the other one, and Sir not appearing in this film. And I gotta talk about some of my favorite scenes. So, and I'm gonna quit. That is honestly my favorite scene in this entire movie. I don't know why. It always makes me laugh so much every time I watch that. And then there's this scene where they encounter this Black Knight fighting a Green Knight. The Black Knight annihilates the Green Knight. Arthur asks him no, and then he just doesn't respond. He's like, and he's like, you cannot pass. And he's like, and then they start fighting, and this is really funny because like when he loses his arm, it's like 'tis merely a scratch or something like that. And then when he loses his arm, he's like, it's a flesh wound. And eventually, he's just crippled to where it's just his body and his head, and the blood looks so cheesy in this scene, and I love it. And then later on, there's a scene where these French people in a castle in England, which already doesn't make any sense, somehow know where the Holy Grail is. Or like they're asking their king to join them, and he's like, well, he's already got one, and then King Arthur's like, oh, can I see it, please? And uh and eventually, like, they get annoyed, so they just start shooting animals at them to get out of here. And the French guy that's up there does like this incredible taunting that is honestly just so funny. And later on, they make this like Trojan rabbit, where like this giant Trojan rabbit, which is obviously a parody of the Trojan horse, for those who know that about Greek history. And that whole scene is absolutely hilarious because it doesn't go to plan at all, because like people are supposed to be in it aren't actually in it, and then Sir Bedivere is like, what if we build a giant wooden badger? That whole scene is also really funny. And then there's another scene near the end of the movie where it's just like this old man on the bridge, and they have to answer 3 questions, and like if not, they get cast in the eternal gorge of peril. And like, I'm not going to talk about every single funny scene because there's just too many of them to mention, but those were a few of the best ones, even though like every scene in this movie is the best scene. I'll be honest with myself there. But the knights are really the thing that makes the film because they're just so funny. Like, in particular, Sir Robin is just really, really funny because he's such a distinct, cowardly personality, and it's just so funny to watch the scene that he's in because he's just a complete coward. That always like pees his pants. um, and yeah, just so many, the nonsensical plot, the hilarious scene after scene, the really ridiculous music to the film, um, and just the creativity of the character personalities introduced make this like honestly the funniest movie ever, and like no one can change my opinion on that. And that is why Monty Python and the Holy Grail is my favorite comedy of all time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.